Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to another episode on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is What You Were Never Taught in School. So if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much. I just want to let you know that we have many TV shows here on USA Global TV and Radio. You can go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and you can see our shows there. We have shows in English, German, as well as French. So today we're going to talk about something that many of us experience as we're going through our lives. The topic is why adult friendships quietly change and why no one talks about it. So we're going to talk about that natural evolution of adult friendships, which are different than friendships we have when we're much younger. And we're going to look at it rather than saying that it's a failure or it's a betrayal. We're going to look at how this really explores growth in all of us as human beings. So we all go through different things in our life. We go through different stages. And many times when we come out the other side, or even through the process of it, we notice that the same people might not be standing by our side as the people who were there in the beginning. So we're going to look at how growth, life stages, ambition, bandwidth, and shifting values really do quietly reshape our relationships over time. And if you've ever been in a situation where you had a friend and then all of a sudden the friend wasn't there anymore and you really don't know what happened, it probably didn't just happen overnight. Typically, there is an evolution that leads us to make a decision that we're no longer in alignment with people we were in alignment with before. And instead of actually going and saying something to the person, we quietly just go off into the distance. And sometimes we can take this as ghosting. We think the person's intentionally doing something. And really what it might be is it's just a shift in that relationship is changing or has changed. So what are some of the key variables that actually play a role in this? Now, there are certain things, for example, like respect. If you feel like someone has disrespected you, you may decide that you don't want to be friends with them anymore. And so I'm not really talking about that because that could happen with any relationship at any time. I'm talking about what actually happens as we grow older in our adulthood. So is there a specific age when this happens? Not necessarily. But if you think about the people you were friends with, maybe childhood friends from elementary school or kindergarten, middle school, high school, college, etc., or if you didn't take the education path, maybe people that you grew up with in the neighborhood or people in your community or people you work with, and you think you're really good friends with someone, and then all of a sudden you realize that that friendship no longer exists. Or sometimes we come to the realization that maybe we never had a true friendship. So today we're going to look at acquaintances and we're going to look at friendships and then maybe true and best friends that are with us throughout time. So what are some of the common pillars that really are the foundation of a good long-term friendship? So there are lots of different research articles out there. There are lots of different thoughts by different influencers. So to me, here are the three that I really believe. The first is how close in proximity, meaning in distance, are you? And sometimes that doesn't mean you're going to be close to someone. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The next one is, what is the phase of life that you're going through? So that would be a timing issue. And then the last is, what is it that's really important to you and where are you putting your energy? So I'm going to call that an energy level. So in terms of proximity, one thing that I look at is, for example, I've lived many places in my life, and I typically have never been friends with my neighbors. Not that I had anything against my neighbors, but I didn't really know them. And just because I moved in someplace or they moved in someplace, that didn't mean we were necessarily be friends. And so I also think to myself the same thing when we work with someone or maybe we interact with people on a regular basis. It's kind of like, how much do we want to get to know them and how much do we want to get to know them? Because if it doesn't work out, there we are with them on an ongoing basis, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. So when you think about proximity, how far in distance are you from someone? Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, and I could say this too, I've got friends who live in various parts of the world. Absolutely. So the proximity doesn't really matter, probably because of the timing and the energy are on par with where you are in your life and where they are in their life. So if you are close to someone and you see them on a regular basis, and I'll give some examples. Maybe you're a religious person and you go to synagogue or you go to church or you go somewhere of faith every week and you see the same people and you've been seeing them for years. So you might choose afterwards to stay around and have some conversation. And maybe this has been going on for years. Or maybe you like to exercise and you go to a certain place to exercise and you see the same people there. Or maybe you go to networking functions or community functions and you see the same people. Now, keep in mind that even though you see the same people, that doesn't mean that you're friends with everyone. So you might be acquaintances, but the fact that you are in a similar location or your paths do cross on a regular basis, that would be an indication that if you wanted to be friends with someone, that would be one of the three pillars. So the second pillar is in terms of timing. You may be going through a stage in your life where if you've been single for a long time, now you met someone. And many people experience this, that you have your close friends and someone meets someone, and now the dynamics of the relationship change. And many times people get upset about that. They think, oh, he or she dropped me as a friend. I've been there all this time. And then they met someone. Well, it's not that they dropped you as a friend per se, but now they're in this new relationship and they're putting their time and energy into that relationship. So the amount of time you're going to see someone might shift. Now, if you're already in a relationship and maybe you're starting a family, and so if your friends in your friend circle are also starting a family, you have a lot that you have in common. You can talk about all the things that come up when it goes from you getting pregnant or delivering the baby and then having the child, childcare or not, homeschooling. There's so many topics that you may or may not have in common because you're all going through the same thing. Maybe you're at a point in your life where everyone's graduated and going into work. Or maybe everyone is retiring and going into that next chapter of their life. So you may have friendships with people who are not in the same phase of life that you're in, but maybe you're close to them in terms of proximity, or maybe you have the same interests and you put your energy into the same things. And we'll get into that one in a moment. So some of the research that I did indicated that in order to go from being strangers to being acquaintances, you need to spend a certain number of hours together. Now, again, there are all different studies on this, so I'm just going to quote the one that I saw, which was about 60 hours. So 60 hours of you being with that person, them being with you, and you getting to know each other. And then to move into a really good friendship, again, do check the numbers because I'm just quoting and arbitrarily bringing a number together. It's more like 100 100 hours. And then to go from being good friends to maybe best friends, lifelong friends, people who are there for each other through thick and through thin, it's 200 plus hours. So obviously, it's a lot of time that you and the other person are putting into the development and the sustainability and the growth of that relationship or friendship. So the last one is energy. Energy meaning that you have things in common that are bringing you together. Now, let's say you have completely different opinions about many things, but there's one area that you both are focused on and it brings you together. So, what could that one thing be? Well, for me, it's fitness. So, fitness is a huge part of my life. So, when I meet someone who's not that much into fitness, in order for me to feel that we have things in common, that we can be friends, there has to be proximity and there has to be timing, that we're going through some of the same things together, or that we understand at least what the other person is going through. So there's a real level of curiosity. So if you have relatively little in common with someone, are you curious about what the other person's doing? Are you interested in learning? Many times I know with what I do, being in the media business, when I meet someone and they ask me what I do, I now have it's such a short response as to what I do, because what I find is people are not interested. They're not interested because they don't understand, because it's not part of what they're doing. They just can't wrap their arms around it. So I know that if I wanted to have a friendship with that person, I'm not going to be able to share very much about what I'm doing because they're just not interested. So I don't have any judgment around that. It's just a realization. And I will soon be 63 next month. And so as I've gone through many iterations of my life, one that's the most profound, obviously, for many of us was during the pandemic. And so during the pandemic, I became a full-time caregiver for my mother who had dementia. And so I was with her day in and day out for over 3 years. And what I found was during that period, many of the people I had been really good friends with just went by the wayside. And part of that, I believe, is because if you haven't been a caregiver and I wasn't nearby, that there's nothing really we have in common anymore. And so that really makes sense. But when we get so attached to the idea of the relationship not working out, we're putting all of this energy into it and it's not coming back to us. So I want you to think about those three things: proximity, timing, and energy. And think about the relationships you currently have in your life and how many of those three pillars are actually at the foundation of the relationships that you have. So, the next place that I want to go into is thinking about being your own best friend. Now, this takes a complete mind shift and a different perspective. For many people that I've known in the course of my life, they cannot be alone. The idea of being alone is very intimidating. And they start to think to themselves, well, what am I going to do? Well, who am I going to talk to? So when you are in a state of mind that you need that external validation or you need someone else in your life, you're actually saying something about yourself. And what you're saying is that you don't feel that you have enough value. So if you're not able to spend time by yourself, think about, why would someone want to spend time with you? What is it that you're offering? And there's no judgment about it. It's just something for you to think about and think about, well, what is coming up for you? If you are someone who's very social and you love to get together with other people, where could there possibly be a void in your life that you constantly need to be with other people? And again, there's no judgment. It's just food for thought. Think about in your own life, are you your own best friend? Are you your own best coach? This is not a betrayal. It's not a failure. But in looking at the fact that most of us as adults experience these friendship shifts, but we don't actually talk about them openly because we feel like someone betrayed us, someone rejected us, we did something wrong. And we feel very uncomfortable when the relationships start to shift. So, what is it I want you to think about here? A change in friendship is very normal. It's not dramatic. It's not the end of the world. Childhood and school friendships are pretty much built on proximity, as I mentioned before. And if you think about this, let's say that you lived down the street when you were growing up from someone and you went to the bus stop together, or whatever the case was, depending on your generation, you walked or you were driven, and you saw the same person. You saw them at the beginning of the day, you saw them at the end of the day, maybe you saw them at recess. It makes sense that because you have this proximity, and maybe your family members or caregivers, maybe they were close with theirs. When we become adults, we no longer have that automatic structure that we had when we were children. And sometimes, even as children, that doesn't exist, because adult friendships really require intentional effort. Both people have to be willing and able to commit to time. And part of this is becoming a good listener. And I think this is where we have room to grow. So, part of what I teach is about listening, but I'm not going to get into that right now on this show. What I'm going to get into is the fact that as an adult, we have to be able to listen to the other person. If you're not a good listener, if you're not curious, if you're not interested, I just shared with you about me. There are many people who are completely not interested in what it is that I do being in the media. And at first, I didn't really understand that, because I thought to myself, wow, what I'm doing is so cool. I mean, how many people get to be owning a television station? I've already hosted or produced over 10,000 videos in the last 4 years. So to me, it's an absolute gift, but not everyone feels that way because they don't understand it. So I have an option, which is I could go and try to educate every person about my journey. Or I could just say, you know what, these friendships or these relationships are just not meant to be. And so that's the way that I choose to look at it, because it has to be mutual curiosity. You have to be interested in what the other person's doing, and they have to be interested in what you're doing. So if that's not the case for you, then maybe think about the fact that this might not be an adult relationship that's going to last. Now, what's the next thing? Because we have responsibilities as adults, we don't necessarily have all of that time as we did as children for spontaneous connections. So you meet someone, let's say you are traveling somewhere, maybe you're on public transportation and you have a conversation with someone. I've seen this happen so many times. I used to travel extensively when I was in corporate for my career. So what I would like you to think about is, have you ever been on a plane and you see two people talking the whole flight, talking, and then they get off the flight, they're both going towards baggage claim and they are no longer communicating, but yet they spend 3 hours in the air having a conversation. Now, why is that? Well, I don't know why they were having the conversation, but they're not communicating or exchanging numbers or getting together because their life doesn't give them that kind of time. Our time is so limited. So if you are someone with a partner or with a family, you have real responsibilities. And there's only so much time that you have for friendships. Many times when we're in a relationship and we have a partner, we end up being friends with the partner's friend's partner so that the four of you can go and do things together. And sometimes that is a path that people don't like going down because they don't really feel connected with the partner's friend's partner. That's a tough one. So if you think back in the day when my parents were growing up, they loved to go bowling. So they were on a bowling league, and every Tuesday they would go down to Del Ennis Lanes in Philadelphia. And I remember because they used to have those chocolate glazed donuts that was kids we loved, but they would get together with these people and they would go bowling. And so they had this thing in common. They were putting their energy into bowling, and then afterwards they could talk about it. They could sit around after they were finished and talk about how they bowled, what the scores were, who won. So that was a commonality that they had. But maybe after that Tuesday they never spoke again until they figured out what was happening for the next Tuesday. So there's a time and there's a place for everything. So if you are in a situation where you have friendships with people and the friendships seem to be shifting, just think about the following things. There could be demands on their career. It could be that they are parenting, or maybe they're now a caregiver. Think about that. I just mentioned to you that I took care of my mother for over 3 years. Sometimes in life, we get an opportunity to take care of someone else. Someone who took care of us, we're now taking care of them. And that takes an incredible amount of time. When I was taking care of my mother and I was starting this business, I had literally no time for anyone. And that wasn't to be mean to anyone. I just didn't. I didn't have anything left to give. Another thing is that we also go through these times when we are experiencing personal growth or professional growth. Maybe it's because of geography. Maybe we are moving somewhere. It could be that your spouse or significant other, or even you, got a new opportunity and you now are moving to a new city or a new state. And so it's going to be difficult to maintain the same kind of friendship. Not that it's impossible, but it's difficult. Another one is health and lifestyle. So today is day 32 that I have not had any sugar and I haven't had any alcohol. I've never done drugs. I've never smoked. And so I literally have no vices. So to many people, that makes me boring. It's boring. Who wants to get together with me? But yet I feel like I am in the prime of my life. I am so excited about what I'm doing. I've got 3 books coming out and I'm going to be doing keynotes over in Europe. And it's not that I'm experiencing anything that anyone else isn't somewhere in the world. But to me, it's the most exciting time of my life. And the fact that I get to do this is beyond words. But yet no one's interested. And that's okay, because I'm okay with me. I don't judge other people. And if people are not curious about what you're doing, you don't have to judge them. You can give them grace and say, okay, it's not meant for us to be together at this time in life. Now, what's another time when we are growing and growing apart? One, it's happening for me, is when my ambition level is different than someone else's. Someone else may be very happy with sitting and watching a movie or sitting and watching television. I own televisions and I own a television network, but I do not watch television, believe it or not. I will watch some streaming services. I have no cable. And there are sometimes I will watch something like a reality TV show. I love reality TV shows because I like to see how people's minds work and how they make the decisions that they make. That's pretty much why I watch reality TV. It's also when your values shift. I just mentioned, I loved my Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. I loved it. And now I am no longer drinking. It's not like I'm starting and stopping. I don't drink anymore. So am I interested? And by the way, I've never been interested in going to some nightclub or sitting in a bar. Am I going to be interested in going out and sitting with someone who's having 4 or 5 drinks? No, probably not, because it's a waste of my time. I'm not judging the person, but my values have shifted. It's also when some people are in a stage of their life, like, for example, retirement. I've retired from my corporate career, but I now have 2 businesses, and soon I'll have a third when I open my in-person television station. So my pace of life is ramping up, whereas other people's pace of life is slowing down. And that's a personal choice. So the next thing is, when you have made a decision that you are no longer in alignment with someone in your life. And it could be even that you're tormented because you've been friends for so long, but you realize that there's no longer an alignment. But you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to have the conversation. Hello, I'd like to talk to you. By the way, I don't think we have anything in common anymore. You could do that, or you could do what most people do. You just don't call anymore. You don't get together anymore. You just go quietly into the night. Some friendships are really meant for a short period of time, not a lifetime. If you have a lifetime friend, and I'll give an example, a lot of these A-list celebrities, you hear them talk about the fact that they are still friends with people that they knew from grade school, from high school. And it's amazing because even though their situation has changed and they have so much celebrity, they are still a humble person, the same person that this person knew when they were growing up. And I think that says a lot. Maybe they put on a hat when they're the A-list celebrity, and then the rest of the time, they're the person that went to school with this other person. Not everyone is capable of doing that. And by the way, not everyone is capable of having a friend who's so successful where they're in the limelight and the friend may not be in the limelight. So that would be another reason why the relationships don't work. So what I want you to think about is this. I've mentioned the 3 pillars, which is proximity, timing, and energy. I want you to think of relationships as a tree. And I've talked about this many times before. And they don't teach us this in school. The tree has the branches with the leaves and it has the roots. Okay, if I look out my window right now from my studio, all the trees, as far as I can see, are dead. There are no leaves on the trees right now. Sometimes that's how our life is. It seems like we have no friends, but then the season changes and all of a sudden someone comes into our life. So leaves come and they go. They're the people who come in and out of our life, maybe to teach us a lesson or help us grow. And maybe that's why we're in their life. You have the branches. You know, if I look out the window, I can see in the distance, I can see some power lines. Sometimes a branch will fall on a power line. Sometimes a major storm will come and it'll knock a branch out. Sometimes branches have to be cut because they're growing over on someone else's property. So it's a little bit more difficult to cut off a branch, but it can be done. So those are relationships that are more stable, that are around for a longer amount of time. But the ones that are truly there for the test of time are the roots. And if you've ever been somewhere where you see a tree roots spread out, sometimes the concrete or the asphalt, it's actually broken because the roots are so long and so thick that it actually breaks anything in its path. And so they're the relationships that last the test of time. Do they have all 3 pillars? They might not have the proximity. Maybe the proximity dates back to when they were growing up or when they were in school. Do they have the timing? Probably, because if you're at the same age, you probably went through some of the same things at the same time. Now, I'm going to give an example which is contrary to that. So I'm 62, soon to be 63. I'm not in a relationship. I have no interest in being in a relationship. I'm fully committed to what it is that I'm doing with my career. Most of my friends are in a relationship. They are married with children and grandchildren. They're retired. They're traveling. So I'm in a completely different space. So when I get together with them, the conversation is typically about what they're doing. Because again, and it's through no judgment, most people don't understand what I do and they're not interested. Hence, I spend a lot of time by myself. But I really value that because that time by myself, I am creating. I am creating a legacy that I never got the chance to work on before this. So I'm very happy with it. But for many people, they wouldn't be happy with my life because they would feel too isolated. And so I can be alone doing anything. I can travel alone. I can go out alone. I can work out alone. It doesn't matter. I am completely confident in myself, but many people are not. So ask yourself, what is it about being alone that is upsetting to you? And once you have that answer, ask yourself why. And then sit with it. And once you have that answer, ask yourself why. There are 5 whys until you're going to get down to whatever the core of it is. Because if you are used to putting all of your energy into someone else, you're going to feel very much alone. when the relationships shift, which they typically do, you are going to feel alone. And alone is not a bad thing, depending on what you do with that. Are you isolated by choice? Are you playing a woe is me role, or are you actually capitalizing on all the time, emotion, and energy that you now have to put into whatever it is that you want to do? Whatever your talents are that you've never actually got to put in place because you were playing a role of, maybe it's spouse, mother, father, grandmother, whatever it might be. And now you actually get to have time to yourself to do what it is that you want to do. So, where are we going as we close out this particular episode? The myth of having friends forever is just that. It's a myth. Are there people who you can have friends forever? Absolutely. But both people have to work on it. Both people have to be curious about what the other person's doing without judgment. It can't be, oh, well, you're doing this, I'm over here doing this. No, it has to be like, wow, tell me more. Tell me about what you're doing. I'm really interested. Even if it's not something that you would be doing, you're interested because you care about that person and you want that person to know. So adult friendships require intentional effort. And sometimes, even though you are close and you have a lifelong friendship, you may go through shifts because people are going through different things. And the most obvious thing that I can share, because we all go through it, is when someone we love becomes ill and we are taking care of them. Maybe we're not the full-time caregiver, but maybe in our heart, that's where we're spending our time because we're thinking about what was and what no longer is. And so that can be a shift because maybe our friends are at a different stage. They're not with someone in their life who is in the last chapter. And so maybe they're traveling and they're going out and you're just not in that frame of mind. That doesn't mean that you're not friends with that person. That doesn't mean that. So think to yourself of your relationship and the things that you're doing, and then just be happy. Give gratitude. Give gratitude for all the people who've come in and out of your life, whether it was pleasant or not, because it was probably a learning experience. And if you find that you are a negative person, that you post nasty, mean, negative comments, that you spend a lot of time on social media criticizing other people, think about this. It comes back to you, and people know that's who you are. And so while you're looking for friendships and people are running the other way, you have to look at your own behavior. What are you putting into this world? Are you putting positivity? Are you being grateful? Are you being nice? Or are you being condescending? Or are you being judgmental? Here at USA Global TV and Radio, we practice and believe in positivity, in grace, and in the goodness of people. So thank you for being here today. I hope whatever relationships you're in, whatever friendships you have or don't have, I hope the strongest one that you have is with yourself because you have a lot to give. So I'd like to announce a few things that are coming up. I have a new course and a new book called Stop Giving Away Your Value. So this is the course and the book is available. I'm going to be bringing it up. The book is available on Amazon. So let me bring that up for you so that you can see it. We also have, here it is. I got to come back. I'm producing the show myself, so give me a second. Okay, Stop Giving Away Your Value is available on Amazon as an ebook. And part of the reason why I wrote this book is for people who are entrepreneurs to realize that your work has value. And if you're giving everything away for free, this is free, that's free, eventually you'll be out of business. But you can certainly give free offerings, but then there's an opportunity to show the value that you actually are bringing by giving away something that is free. So that book will be available in the April timeframe. I also have another book that is in time for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation Take Steps Walk at Philadelphia Citizens Bank Park. I'm on the board of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation, and I'm also a patient with ulcerative colitis for 34 years now. So I've written a book that is really to help children, parents, and caregivers who are dealing with a child who is experiencing a diagnosis of ulcerative colitis. And this book actually helps to explain to the child and give comfort to the family members. And then my next new book that's coming out is in the Lady Ella and Lord Jack series. If you're not familiar with it, this is the 10th book in the series. And these books are all to teach children and their families how to listen at an elevated level. So this is also available as a pre-order on Amazon. If you'd like to get in touch with me or you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, we have over 60 TV shows. As I mentioned in the beginning, they're in French, English, and German. So you can contact me here. I'm putting up my contact details. It's usaglobaltv.com and drjacalyn.com, or our email is drjacalyn@usaglobaltv.com. We are home of the YouTube Silver Creator Award for over 100,000 subscribers. So thank you all for watching. We're in 60 different countries, and now we have over 11,000 TV shows that you can watch on USA Global TV and Radio, and you can also listen on the podcast platforms. Thank you again. We'd love to have you on our family and in our community. Please subscribe to our 2 channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. All right. Thank you again for being here. That's all for now. And over to our sponsors, starting off with Tracy Cram-Perkins and the Dementia Home Care Show. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram-Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the Listening Mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day, Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, only here on USA Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.